the branded one. The city of Virelon was silent at night. Tall, alien buildings stood broken and empty. What used to be a research colony was now only dust, glass, and forgotten history. Dr. Elias Thorne, a human geneticist, walked carefully through the ruins, scanning the air for radiation. His boots crunched on metal pieces as he stepped over a collapsed wall. The scanner in his hand beeped softly. He was searching for old DNA samples, maybe something rare, maybe something useful. But he found something alive. A soft cough echoed through the hallway. Elias stopped. He raised his light and followed the sound. Behind a broken lab table, under a pile of old blankets, he saw her. A girl, an alien girl. She was thin, her skin a pale blue color, covered in dirt and blood. Her hair, once silver, now looked dull and tangled. Her wide eyes glowed softly in the dark as she stared at him with fear. "Please," she whispered, her voice shaking. "Don't scan me. Please." Elias frowned. "I'm not here to hurt you. I'm human. A doctor." She didn't move. Her hands trembled. She looked like she hadn't eaten in days. Elias slowly put the scanner away and raised his empty hands. "See? No weapons." She didn't trust him yet, but her body was too weak to run. She collapsed as she tried to stand. Elias rushed forward and caught her. She weighed almost nothing. He checked her pulse. It was weak, but steady. He had to know if she was safe to help. He hesitated, then pulled out the scanner again. "Forgive me," he said softly. He scanned her. The result appeared instantly, and what he saw made his stomach twist. The scanner flashed red. DNA brand detected. She wasn't sick. She was tagged. The brand wasn't on her skin. It was in her DNA. Elias stared at the screen. The data was shocking. Her genetic code had been rewritten. Inside her body, deep in every cell, a special sequence marked her as property. A living product. She wasn't listed as a person, but as an asset. The scanner gave her name as Zeta 443. He looked at the girl again. She was curled on the floor, shaking, her face hidden. "What's your real name?" Elias asked gently. She didn't answer. He knelt beside her. "You're not an asset. You're not a number. What do you want me to call you?" Her lips moved. "Lyra," she whispered. Elias nodded. "Okay, Lyra, I'm taking you with me." Inside his shuttle, Elias gave Lyra food and clean water. She ate slowly, afraid at first, but her eyes softened as she saw his kindness. "Why are you helping me?" she asked after some time. "Because I saw your mark," he said, "and because no one should carry a brand like that." Lyra looked down. "They made me this way. When I was small, they told me I belonged to them." "Who?" Elias asked. "The Syndicate," she said. "They buy and sell us. They use scientists to put codes in us. If we run, they track us. If we resist, the code punishes us." Elias had heard of the Syndicate, a powerful black market group, but he had never seen their work up close. "You said the code punishes you?" She nodded. "Pain, heat, voices in the head, and dreams, bad ones, like someone watching." Elias stood up and began searching his ship's lab. "Then we need to get that brand out of you." Lyra sat up sharply. "You can't. It's part of me, in the blood. I'm a geneticist. I've worked on hundreds of sequences. If it's data, I can find it. And if I find it, I can remove it." She stared at him for a moment, then slowly nodded. "I want it gone." Later that night, Elias sat in front of a glowing screen, studying the brand in her DNA. It wasn't simple. The brand wasn't just a name. It was connected to pain response, fear triggers, even thought patterns. Worse, it wasn't alien tech. It was human. Lines of code written in Earth standard format. Language only Terran labs used. Elias's heart sank. His own people had done this to her, to others. As Lyra slept quietly under a thermal blanket, Elias stared at the monitor, eyes burning. He whispered to himself, "I'm going to break this code." He looked at her once more. No matter what it takes. She's not property. The lights inside Elias's lab ship glowed a soft blue. It was quiet. Only the sound of machines running and Elias tapping keys filled the room. Lyra lay on a medical bed in the center of the room. She looked better now. Her color was slowly returning and her breathing was calm. But the brand in her DNA still pulsed like a warning. Elias rubbed his eyes and looked at the screen again. There it was. Zeta 443. The code that had been carved into her genes. "This isn't a name," he whispered. "It's a cage." He pulled up layers of the code. The deeper he looked, the more he found. The brand had many parts. One controlled her pain levels. Another changed her hormones when she resisted orders. A third was connected to a long-range signal like a leash. Elias's screen blinked red. Alert. Unauthorized tampering detected. Location ping sent. He swore under his breath and quickly shut down the ship's main system. If the syndicate saw her signal go dark, they'd come looking. He had to act fast. Lyra woke with a sharp breath and sat up. "Is it happening?" she asked. "No, not yet," Elias said. "But they might know you're with me." Her eyes filled with fear. "If they find me, they'll take me back. Or worse." "I'm not letting that happen," Elias said firmly. "You're not property. You're a person." Lyra looked down. "They said no one would ever say that. They said humans would always see us as less." "Not me," Elias said. "I see you." He reached for a small device, a neural stabilizer. "I can block part of the signal for now. It won't fix the code, but it might give us time." Lyra nodded and sat still as Elias pressed the tool against the back of her neck. It beeped once, then glowed green. She gasped as the pain in her head faded instantly. "I didn't know what silence felt like," she said in wonder. Elias sat back down at his console. "There's only one way to fix this," he said. "We have to go into the gene line and cut the brand out." "But that's impossible," Lyra said. "My people tried. Some even died trying." Elias didn't look away from the screen. "Then I'll be the first to succeed." Hours passed. Elias worked without rest. He zoomed in on each gene segment, each piece of the brand code. Some parts were fused into her immune system. Others were wrapped around memory centers. He realized something terrifying. If he simply removed the code, Lyra's body would break down. The code wasn't just added. It was wired in. He couldn't just erase it. He had to replace it. Later that night, a message popped up on his main screen. "Remote warning. You are harboring syndicate property. Return immediately or face charges." Lyra saw the message and stepped back in panic. "They know," she said. "They'll come." Elias stood up and walked over to the control panel. Without a word, he pressed the button and wiped the alert. "Let them come," he said. "I'm not giving you back." Lyra looked at him surprised. "Why?" she asked. "Why risk so much for me?" Elias looked at her, really looked. "Because I helped build the system that hurt people like you," he said quietly. "I thought I was doing good work, but now I know better." He held up a data pad. "This is my way to make it right." Suddenly, Lyra screamed. She fell to the floor, holding her head. "What's wrong?" Elias rushed over. "Pain. Inside my skull. It's burning." Elias checked her vitals. The brand had detected external interference and activated its punishment system. Elias had pushed too hard into the code, and now it was fighting back. He grabbed another stabilizer, attached it to her wrist, and activated emergency cooling gel on her spine. Lyra gasped and passed out. Elias sat beside her, his hands shaking. "This is a race," he whispered. "Either I fix her, or they find her first." He looked at the half-deleted code on the screen. They don't get to win. Outside, far above the lab ship, a small drone appeared in the night sky. It scanned the ground, paused over the ship and blinked once. Signal reacquired. The forbidden code. The morning light on Anvalis was dim and golden. Inside Elias's lab ship, the air was heavy with tension. Lyra still lay on the medical bed, breathing slowly. Her skin had cooled. The pain had stopped, for now. But the warning was clear. The brand fought back when touched. Elias stood over the console, scrolling through line after line of genetic code. His face was pale, eyes sunken from no sleep. This isn't just a lock, he said to himself. It's a trap. The brand code was deep, twisted into Lyra's cells. It didn't just mark her. It controlled her. It punished her for being free. Elias copied the entire sequence into a private file and began mapping it. That's when he saw it, a signature. At the bottom of the code, barely visible, was a small line in Earth Standard Biocode. Auth Project Mira. Terran Biotech Authority. His fingers froze. It's from Earth. He opened another database, one only Terran scientists could access. He searched for Project Mira. A warning popped up. Classified Level 9, Genetic Weaponization Act, status, terminated. But the code was still alive, inside Lyra. Why would a banned Earth program be used on an alien girl? He whispered. Lyra stirred weakly. What is it? Elias looked at her, torn. You were branded by something made by my people. Not aliens, not pirates, Earth scientists. She blinked in confusion. Your people? Did this? Elias nodded slowly. It was part of a project years ago. They created living assets for war, spying, even slavery. They shut it down, officially. Lyra sat up, her face hardening. So I'm not even a product of my own people. I'm just a mistake passed from one master to another. No, Elias said quickly. You're not a mistake. You're the proof that this system is still alive, and that we have to break it. He turned back to the screen and began rewriting the DNA. But it wasn't easy. Every time he tried to change one part, the code reacted, repairing itself, blocking the signal, creating backups. It's self-defending code, Elias said. It doesn't want to be removed. He needed something more powerful, a way to overwrite the entire sequence without killing her. He looked down at the file. It needed a mirror pattern, a clean gene template with enough similarity to blend with hers, his own DNA. He walked over to the bioscanner and placed his hand inside. Lyra sat up, alarmed. What are you doing? I'm going to try something. Risky, he said. I'm going to build a new gene pattern for you, based on my DNA. If it works, we can replace the brand with a clean sequence. If it doesn't, you could die, she finished for him. He nodded. Lyra stood even though her legs trembled. No, you've done too much already. I can't let you break yourself for me. You're not asking me, Elias said gently. I'm deciding. I have to do this. Lyra looked into his eyes. She saw no fear there. Only pain and hope. Okay, she whispered. Then I trust you. Elias extracted the sample and began creating the hybrid sequence. It was delicate work. If even one line failed, Lyra's immune system could reject it and collapse. He worked for hours, sweat on his forehead, hands steady. Meanwhile, outside the ship, the small drone had finished its scan. It blinked red and flew away into the sky, sending a signal back to its masters. Inside the Syndicate command ship, a tall man in a black coat received the signal. Zeta 443 located. He smiled. Send the harvesters. Back on the ship, Elias finished the sequence. He placed the new data into the delivery capsule and turned to Lyra. This will hurt, he warned, but only for a moment. She nodded. I've lived with pain all my life. I can take one more. He injected the sequence. Lyra gasped. Her body arched, her skin glowing bright gold for a moment. The lights flickered. Her heart monitor screamed. Then, silence. Elias rushed to her side. Lyra? She wasn't breathing. He grabbed the stimulator. Come on, not now, not after everything. Suddenly she gasped. Her chest rose. Her eyes opened. Bright, clear, and calm. She looked at him. The pain. It's gone. Elias exhaled in relief. It worked, he said, smiling. The brand is shutting down. But before they could celebrate, an alert blared. Incoming ships detected. Lyra looked at the screen. They're here. Elias stood up. Then we make a choice. Run, or fight for your freedom. Hunters in the lab. The ship's alarm kept ringing. Red lights flashed along the walls. Elias looked out the narrow window and saw them. 3 dark ships coming down fast. Syndicate hunters. Their shape was sharp, like flying knives, built for speed and fear. They found us, Lyra whispered. Just like I said they would. Elias moved quickly. We don't have much time. We need to block the entrance and protect the main console. What are they going to do? She asked. They won't knock on the door, Lyra. Elias replied. They'll blast it open. And if they get inside, they'll either take you or destroy everything. Lyra clenched her fists. I won't go back, she said. Not ever again. Elias sealed the door and activated the internal defense system. A small energy shield covered the lab's most important area, the DNA station. Stay behind this line, he told her. If anything happens, this shield will protect the new code inside your body. Lyra nodded. Her hands trembled, but her eyes stayed steady. Outside, the first hunter ship landed. Metal claws dug into the ground. 5 figures stepped out in black armor, each carrying shock rifles. Their helmets glowed red, showing no faces. One raised a scanner. Asset Zeta 443 located. Life signs confirmed. Another said, Master says take her alive, kill the human. The main door shook with a loud boom, then another. Then, crack! A smoke grenade rolled inside. Down! Elias shouted. The lab filled with thick white fog. Elias grabbed his stun rifle and fired at the shadows entering the ship. One hunter fell. Another fired back, hitting the wall just above Lyra's head. She ducked. Her instincts kicked in. She grabbed a heavy tray and threw it, hitting a hunter's helmet and breaking the visor. The hunter roared in pain. Elias activated the emergency blast field. A flash of blue light shot across the room, forcing the rest of the hunters back. But the effect was short. One of the hunters reached the console. No, Elias yelled, running forward. But it was too late. The hunter slammed a device onto the panel. The screen flashed. Purge code activated. DNA destruction sequence started. Elias tackled the hunter to the floor, grabbing the device and pulling it. Free. System offline, the AI said. Elias threw the device into the corner and shot it. Sparks flew. Lyra stood coughing, but her mind was racing. If they destroyed the console, she would never be able to help others like her. The sequence Elias used to free her, it was inside that system. One blast, and it would be gone. She had to protect it. Another hunter charged toward the console. Lyra screamed and stepped into his path. The hunter raised his rifle, but before he could fire, a loud crack echoed. A shot from Elias's rifle hit the hunter in the chest, knocking him out cold. But in the chaos, no one noticed the final hunter creeping behind Elias. He raised his blade. Lyra saw it. Without thinking, she threw herself in front of Elias, just as the blade slashed through the air. Lyra fell to the floor, blood dripping from her side. Elias spun and shot the attacker, but the damage was done. No, 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 Elias cried, grabbing her. Lyra, stay with me. She smiled weakly. Still hurts less than the brand. Elias laid her down gently, then rushed to grab the healing foam and applied it to her wound. The bleeding slowed. You're going to be okay, he whispered. You have to be. You're free now. She looked into his eyes. Then promise me, you'll free more. The remaining hunters retreated, dragging their injured with them. One sent a final message. Failed to recover. Set. Subject now unstable. Recommend sterilization protocol. Elias didn't know what that meant, but he knew something worse was coming. Lyra woke hours later, bandaged but breathing. Elias was beside her, guarding the DNA console. I saved the code, he said softly. They didn't destroy it. She touched his hand. You kept your promise. And I'll keep another, Elias replied. We'll make sure no one else carries a brand again. Lyra smiled. But far above them, another ship began to move. Larger one that didn't come to capture. It came to a race. The breakpoint. The night sky above Anvalis turned red. A syndicate destroyer entered the atmosphere, huge, silent, and deadly. It hovered over the ruins like a dark cloud, its underbelly glowing with charged plasma. Inside the lab ship, Elias watched the radar screen flash red. Warning, incoming orbital weapon detected. He looked at Lyra, who was sitting on the edge of the bed, pale but awake. They're not trying to capture you this time, Elias said quietly. They're going to wipe everything. Lyra looked at the console where her DNA freedom code was still stored. They want to erase the truth. Elias nodded. And you, and me, and the cure. A sudden idea hit Elias. If I can upload your DNA sequence to the outer net, it'll be everywhere. They won't be able to erase it. Anyone will be able to use it to free others like you. Lyra stood slowly, still in pain. Do it, she said. Even if I don't survive, others will. Elias hesitated. There's one problem. The sequence is locked to your body. If we upload it as is, it won't work for others. I need a clean template. What does that mean? I need to rewrite the sequence line by line so it's universal, not just for you. Lyra swallowed hard. How long will that take? He looked at the screen. 6 hours. Lyra looked up at the sky. We don't have 6 hours. Elias thought fast. There's one way, but it's dangerous. He pulled out a capsule, a backup injector. If I copy your entire DNA, blend it with a neutral genome and inject it into my own body, I can create a hybrid line. My body will react fast. I'll either die or give birth to a code that works for everyone. Lyra's eyes widened. You can't. If you fail, we both die. Elias smiled sadly. If I don't try, they win. They moved quickly. Elias set up the biogene reactor. Lyra helped even as pain throbbed through her body. She typed in code, held wires, monitored vitals. As he placed the injector against his own chest, she stopped him. If you do this, you become part of me, not just in science but in blood. I already am, Elias said softly. He pressed the injector. His body jerked with pain. The transformation began. His cells started rewriting themselves, fusing with the modified code. He collapsed to the ground, shaking violently. Lyra screamed, Elias! Inside his body, chaos reigned. His immune system attacked the foreign DNA. His brain felt like it was on fire. Memories of his past flashed. His family, his first lab job, the moment he realized science could harm as well as help. And then, he saw Lyra. Not the wounded girl he found, but her soul. Strong, angry, beautiful. I won't fail you, he whispered through gritted teeth. Lyra watched his monitor beep wildly, blood pressure falling, heart rate slowing. No, she cried. Not now, not after everything. She opened the emergency kit and found a core stabilizer. Without waiting, she activated it and pressed it against his spine. His body lit up with golden light. He screamed, then went silent. The monitor flatlined. Lyra froze. Tears filled her eyes. She held his hand, cold and still. If I die, promise me you'll never stop freeing the others. Those were her words. Now they were his, and she wasn't going to let them go to waste. Then, beep. A slow, steady sound. His heart was beating. Lyra gasped. You're alive. Elias's eyes opened, dull at first, then sharp. He blinked. It worked. I can feel it. He reached for the console with shaking fingers and began typing. Lines of glowing code flowed onto the screen. It was new, universal. Outside, the destroyer charged its weapon. The ground trembled. Inside, Elias hit upload. The DNA sequence began to send to every open server on the galactic network. 1 minute passed. 2. Upload complete. The code was out. The truth was free. The destroyer fired, a massive beam of red light, shot toward the planet, aimed at the lab ship. Lyra pulled Elias close. He whispered, "No regrets." Then, impact. A wall of light exploded across the ruins. Dust rose into the sky, and silence followed. The girl who woke clean. The wind blew softly over the burned soil. Ash fell from the sky like gray snow. The Syndicate's orbital blast had flattened the ruins of the lab ship. Twisted metal, shattered screens, and broken glass covered the ground. Everything was quiet. Too quiet. Under the rubble, a piece of metal moved. A small sound followed. A cough. Then, a hand pushed up through the dust. It was Lyra. Alive. Her face was covered in dirt and dried blood. Her body ached all over. But she was breathing. Her heart was still beating, and more than anything, she felt different, stronger, clearer, free. She touched her chest and gasped. The burn, that painful pulse in her body, she had lived with for years, it was gone. No more command signals, no more DNA chain buzzing in her skull. She was clean. "I'm not marked anymore," she whispered. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She crawled through the debris, calling out softly, "Elias, Hilia." No answer. She searched harder, pushing aside broken panels and scorched wires. Finally, she found him, half buried under a beam. His skin was burned, his clothes torn, but he was breathing. Barely. "Elias," she cried. She pulled debris off him, crying out with each movement. Her body was weak, but her spirit wasn't. She dragged him into the open and placed his head on her lap. "Wake up," she whispered. His eyes fluttered open. "You lived," he said weakly. "So did you," she smiled, her tears falling onto his face. "You uploaded it?" she asked. He nodded slowly. "Before the blast. The code is everywhere now." Lyra looked up at the sky, now clearing. "Then no one can stop it," she said. Elias coughed. "Others will see it, use it, free the branded." Lyra nodded. "You did it?" "No," he said, barely able to speak. "We did." Hours later, a rescue beacon they had installed weeks ago finally activated. A trader ship passing through the sector caught the signal and landed near the wreck. The crew, made up of neutral species, found the 2 survivors and brought them aboard. The medics were shocked. A living human with alien gene signatures. An alien. Girl with no identity trace, no brand, no registry. They had never seen anything like it. In the ship's medical room, Lyra stood by Elias's bed. He was asleep, healing slowly. She stared at her reflection in the glass wall. Her skin still showed faint scars, but her eyes no longer held fear. She whispered to herself, "I am not Zeta 443. I am not an asset. I am Lyra." Behind her, a comms officer entered. "There's something you need to hear." Lyra followed him to the bridge. On the large central screen, dozens of messages were flashing in real time. From Delta Moon Resistance. "We received the code. Our healers are testing it on branded children." From Mars Underground. Net. First clean subject reported. She's smiling. From Border World 7. "We thought it was fake. It's real. We're free." Lyra covered her mouth. They were working. The DNA fix was already spreading across the galaxy. Elias had kept his promise, and now it was her turn. When Elias finally woke, Lyra was waiting beside him. "We have a choice," she said. "We can go somewhere safe. Start a new life." He looked at her. Or we can go to the others," she said, her voice firm. "The ones still trapped, still waiting, and give them what we have." Elias gave her a tired but proud smile. "You sound like someone I'd follow." She held out her hand. "Then follow me. Together, they stepped out onto the docking ramp of the trader ship. A new journey was beginning. But this time, Lyra wasn't running. She was leading. Far across the galaxy, in Syndicate headquarters, alarms rang. Servers failed, records of control, and ownership began vanishing. The brand system was crumbling, and no matter what they did, they couldn't stop the girl who woke clean. Her name, not her code. The capital city of Orvan Prime stood tall with silver towers and floating ships. It was the heart of the Galactic Alliance, a place where laws were made and history was written. And today, that history was about to change. In Mao, the Grand Assembly Hall, powerful leaders and delegates from 100 worlds had gathered. Most of them didn't know why, only that an emergency request had come through with top-level access. The doors opened. 2 people walked in, a human scientist, tired, scarred, and serious, and an alien girl with silver eyes and no fear. Lyra. The room fell silent as she stepped forward. A security droid scanned her. Subject ID Zeta 443. Status, asset branded. Owner, Syndicate Holdings. The crowd murmured. An ambassador from the northern colonies stood. This is illegal. That's property. You brought an outlaw into this chamber? Lyra's voice rang out, strong and clear. I am not an asset. She walked to the center platform. My name is Lyra. That code you read, it's gone. It no longer exists in my body. I was freed by him. She pointed to Elias, who stood behind her. We created a cure, she said, a fix to the brand, and we gave it to the galaxy. A delegate from the medical guild stood up. You claim to be cured, but you were made with a brand at the DNA level. That cannot be removed. I'm living proof, Lyra replied. She took a scanner from Elias's bag and held it to her arm. The screen blinked. Brand not found. Identity unknown. She looked around the room. I am not unknown. I am not a number. I am Lyra. I have a name. The hall went silent. Then someone clapped. One by one, others stood and joined. Delegates, scientists, observers, even old military officers. They weren't just seeing a speech, they were seeing a revolution. Hours later, the Galactic Council declared a new law. All beings with branded genetic code shall be recognized as victims of illegal modification. The brand shall be treated as a violation of identity, and those responsible will be prosecuted, the Syndicate protested. They threatened war, but they were already losing control. All over the galaxy, people were freeing themselves, using Elias and Lyra's code, using hope. In the days that followed, Elias and Lyra were invited to speak across many worlds. They were not called rebels anymore. They were called restorers, and Lyra, once a hidden, silent girl, now stood in front of thousands. She told her story. She showed her scar, and she said again and again, I am not what they made me. I am who I choose to be. One night, while resting aboard a transport ship, Elias and Lyra looked out at the stars. They know your name now, Elias said. Lyra smiled. Yes. They'll remember it. I hope so, she replied. But more than that, I want them to remember why I have it. Elias looked at her. Why? Because someone cared enough to see me, she said softly. Not as a thing, but as a person. She turned to him. And because I never gave up. Back on Anvalis, the ruins of the old lab were now quiet again. But somewhere under the dust, a message was carved into stone. Just one line. She was branded. But she chose. Her name,